This lighting's weird. Whatever. Hi, my name is Cindy, and I am here today to do Neafcy's YouTube movie deal tag, which I'm very excited about because I love movies and I love talking about movies. And I have some notes here, which will hopefully help me stay on target and not go off on rants, but no promises. Without further ado, let's get to the questions. So the first one is, what's the first movie you remember seeing? This is a very hard question to answer because I've been watching movies for as long as I can remember. My mom is a big movie buff herself, so she, had me watching movies right off the bat. So I don't really remember, but there are 4 movies that come to mind. The first movie I remember seeing in theaters, not the first movie I ever saw, but the first movie I ever saw, or remember seeing in theaters, is 101 Dalmatians, the live-action one, starring Glenn Close, which I'm pretty sure most people forget actually exists. But yeah, I haven't seen it since, but it's a nice memory because my older sister, who's 10 years older than me, so she was the big sister taking the little sister to the movies, she used to take me to the movies a lot, and it's just that first memory of going to the movies with her is kind of nice, even though I don't really remember the movie itself that much. So that's the first movie I saw in theaters, or at least remember seeing in theaters. 3 other movies that come to mind in terms of owning them on VHS and just watching them incessantly as a child are The Great Mouse Detective, which is a fantastic movie, very underrated, and a great introduction to Sherlock Holmes for little kids. Watched that a lot. Little Mermaid I watched a lot, obviously, little kid in the 90s. And Jurassic Park. Now, Jurassic Park is a fantastic film. It's still one of my favorite movies, definitely one of my favorite action movies. But, it's not really, a movie that you would think of as the first movie a kid ever watched, because it's not really child-friendly. But my mom was pretty liberal growing up with what she let me watch, so I watched a lot of intense stuff as a little kid, one of which was Jurassic Park when I was, 3 or 4 years old. Is it possible to have a favorite film, and if so, which is yours? I don't believe, or I should say I don't agree with what some people have been saying, that if you have a favorite film, it means that you haven't watched a lot of films. I've watched hundreds of films, and I do have a favorite film, and I wish I was filming this in my bedroom, because you would be able to see the giant poster of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Now, personally, I consider The Lord of the Rings, all 3 movies, as one long movie. So, if I were to tell it, my favorite film is The Lord of the Rings, all 3 of them. But if we're going to get nitpicky about it, I will say that Return of the King is my favorite of the 3, so therefore being my favorite film. Oh, man, I could probably gush about Lord of the Rings for hours. I might make another video about how much these movies meant to me growing up. I will say this. Return of the King came out in 2003. I was 12 at the time. And it was a weirdly solitary thing for me. Because I loved those movies so much. And I had friends who liked them and my family liked them. But nobody loved them on the level that I did. And this is before I really used the internet to talk to people. I used the internet to talk to friends, but I was still very much in that whole stranger danger, don't talk to people you don't know, because they'll show up at your house and kidnap you. That was what was going through my head. So that whole sense of, fandom and that whole internet community where you could, talk to other people about stuff that you really like, it just didn't pertain to me, because I was too afraid to talk to strangers, which is good, because I was 12, but it was very lonely to feel so passionate about something and not to be able to share in that with anyone else. But now it's great because there are so many other people who feel about the same way I do about those movies, and I can talk to them online, if it's on Tumblr or on a forum or something. Even in college, I met people who loved them as much as I did, and I was like, where were you 10 years ago? But yeah, Lord of the Rings, everything I loved. I love the story, I love the acting, I love the music, I love the character development. I really, really love it. Honorable mentions will go to The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, which is old Rex Harrison, Gene Tierney movie that nobody seems to have ever seen, but it's really beautiful and sweet. Also a great score. Wall-E, which pretty much everyone has seen, I think, by now. And Casper, starring Christina Ricci from, 1995. It's another one of those movies that, a lot of people I don't think remember exists. but I love it. I don't know why. It's a stupid movie. Objectively, it's probably not very good, but it's like a comfort movie, you know? You put it on when you need like a warm, fuzzy blanket and just to forget about everything. Like that's Casper for me. Movies that make you cry. I cry a lot at movies. It's a cathartic experience for me. I don't necessarily sob, but, you know, a single tear rolling down the cheek. You know, I'm all about that. It's great. A few movies that came to mind were The Green Mile, Wendy and Lucy, which is a movie about a girl and her dog, Dear Zachary, which is a documentary, and it's the saddest thing I've ever watched. I think that's the hardest I ever cried at a movie, Dear Zachary. Philadelphia, Ordinary People, and Big Fish. So those are like the, you know, oh, you cried at those. Those are standard tearjerker movies. But there are two on here that are kind of unconventional, I think. One of them is How to Train Your Dragon. It's a scene where Hiccup is training Toothless. There's just something about that scene that really reminded me about the relationship I had with my dog, who passed away 4 years ago. So whenever I watch that scene, I just kind of think of Angel, my dog, and, you know, I miss her, I guess. You know, pets, they're not really, like, those pets, like dogs and cats, and those pets that you build a real bond with, they're not, you don't think of them as pets, you think of them as your best friend, and I think that movie does a really good job of showing that, so. The other movie that's kind of unconventional is 13 Going on 30. A lot of people just say that this movie is a ripoff of Big, but you know what? They're just haters. They're all haters. I love that movie for a few reasons, but there's a scene in it where Jennifer Garner's character, Jenna, goes to Mark Ruffalo's character, Matt, and she tells him, hey, I love you, I've always loved you, and I'm sorry I was such a terrible person to you all those years, but I love you. And he's like, I loved you too, but I'm marrying someone else. And it's just, it pushes all the right buttons, and it elicits that emotional response, at least from me. Mark Ruffalo is at his Mark Ruffalo-iest, so there's that. If you could climb into any movie universe, what would it be? I mean, Harry Potter is definitely the obvious choice. I think a lot of people have mentioned that. Lord of the Rings, I'd love to hang out with the elves in Lothlorien and be beautiful with the elves, do whatever elves do, that'd be great. But I think I'm gonna go with a different choice. Bill and Ted, you know, like, yeah, I'll totally time travel with these two weirdos. That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, Bill and Ted, let's go. Characters you wish you could be more like. The first character that came into my head is Mary from Mary and Max. Not because I want to be more like her, but because I've never identified with a character like I identified with Mary from Mary and Max. She even looks like me. Yeah, she looks like me. So, you know, watch Mary and Max. It's a great film. It's about a weird, lonely little girl in Australia who picks a name out of a phone book to get a pen pal, and her pen pal turns out to be this 40-year-old man living in New York. And it sounds creepy, but it's not. It's beautiful, and it's very sweet and touching. And Mary just reminds me of me, so, but that's not answering the question. I would love to be more like, I don't know, I'm getting all these weird, I love Coraline from the movie Coraline, even though she's kind of mean to her mom. I don't want to be mean to my mom, but that sort of inquisitive nature and that ability to outsmart the bad guy, I like that a lot. Also Lydia from Beetlejuice. I don't know why, but I think she's really cool. So, yeah, Lydia from Beetlejuice. Movies that have influenced my life. Obviously, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Jurassic Park. I've mentioned all these movies before, and I could go on, but I'm going to pick out one movie, and that movie is Jaws. Not because Jaws is one of my favorite films, I love it, but it's not my favorite film, it's not even in my top 10, but it's my mom's favorite film. And my mom really was the one to get me to love movies from a young age. I owe a lot to her. I owe a lot of my taste to her. I owe a lot. You know, I've seen a lot of movies that other kids growing up wouldn't have seen because, you know, they were older. They were in black and white. They were, you know, not Disney. So I really credit her with shaping my love for movies from early on. So I'm going to go with Jaws. It's for you, Mom. Finally, a movie that I hate. I have the movie. I do. The thing is, with movies in general, I either love it, like it, or whatever. I didn't really like it, but I just kind of write it off. I don't know what that was. But there is one movie that I hate. I really, really hate. And that is a film called Good Luck Chuck. It came out, I guess, around 2006, 2007, back when Dane Cook was still relevant. So, yeah. It's basically about this guy who has a curse on him. And every time he has sex with a woman, the next person that woman meets is her soulmate. So you have all these women lining up to have sex with Chuck because they know that the next person they meet is going to be their soulmate. So this is the first movie that I remember watching that offended me as a girl. It was the fact that so many women were so desperate to find a man to complete them, to find their soulmate, that they would throw themselves at this guy just for the chance of eventually finding their soulmate. And I just remember thinking, like, what is this trying to say? Like, what is this movie trying to say? Wow, Chuck, you're such a nice guy for having sex with all these women and helping them find... So yeah, that's my least favorite film. I really don't like it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate the message that any woman is desperate to find someone to complete them. I hate it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to get married one day, but, like, that's not... I'm not... Okay. Well, this was fun. It was fun to watch everybody's responses. I'm still watching a few, so, yeah. And, I'm not going to tag anyone because I just started this channel the other day and I don't know anybody on YouTube yet personally, and none of my friends in the real world use YouTube, so I can't really tag anyone. So if you're watching this video and made it all the way to the end, I tag you. I'll link to Neafcy's video and it'll be great. Okay. Take care. Mwah!